Dominion is finally here.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and I want to talk to you, hopefully only one more time today, about Dominion and about the release and about fear of missing out and perceived scarcity from Games Workshop. Now, we put out the video before, and there's been a lot of new developments, so I'm going to talk about that here in a second. I appreciate everybody's comments. There's been so many views and so many comments, and the vast majority of people agreed with what I had to say. The point of doing these videos is to educate everybody, educate hobbyists on how they can spend their hobby dollars perhaps in a different place and in maybe a little bit smarter. So if we all start voting with our hobby dollars, that will kind of force Games Workshop to provide more value. And if it isn't Games Workshop providing more value, it'll be another manufacturer to provide good value for everybody out there. Because at the end of the day, we just need a free, fair market place out there for tabletop wargaming for anybody, any company, any size and small, and especially with all these 3D artists out there, to provide hobbyists with the things they need, because Games Workshop doesn't always do that. And it's been a really great time to get all these dope printed bits, cast bits, whatever out there to customize your armies and keep everybody engrossed in the hobby and engaged. And especially now that we're coming out of lockdown and everything, and everybody's getting out there and starting to play more, I think it's very important because people are seem to be voting more and more with their hobby dollars, as we're seeing with this Indominus release, which stores are pretty concerned about right now. But I did want to address some of the comments out there about these videos I'm doing. Just like I said, these are to educate hobbyists, to help you guys spend your hobby dollars better. That's why I feature a lot of other products out there that other people don't. Now, yes, we are compensated for it. They send us extra product, and they send us, the products to show you, because, it costs money to keep the lights on here to do all of this. But at the end of the day, I think it's very important that they have a share of voice out there too, along with Games Workshop, because GW can just send out 50 billion copies of Indominus or in Dominion to every little content producer, big and small out there. And we all saw it in our feeds, and people just showing the box and like, hey, I got the box. And that was it. I get it. But it's also very important for other companies and other folks to have that share of the voice and have their name out there as well. Now, one of the comments that a lot of people said was, hey, you're just doing this to make money. And I mean, yes, we do things to make money here. That is true. We got to keep the lights on. But this series of videos, just so you know, this new style of videos, and I have a lot of things to talk about. I didn't really want to talk about Dominion again. I really wanted to talk about the things GW is doing right. And that's probably going to be the title of our next video. And I'll show you the things that GW is doing right, because they are doing a lot of things right out there. It's just on the sales side of things and the marketing that's a little bit off-putting to a lot of people, I feel like. So here's the deal. Normally we make about $500 off YouTube a month. And that might seem like a lot to everybody out there, but it's not. It actually costs me more to pay my video editor than it does this. So normally we make about $500 a month, just like YouTube's saying right here. But, things are up a little bit because more people are watching these style of videos, which I super appreciate. And I'm glad that the message is getting out there, because voting with your hobby dollars is the most important thing I feel like we can do as hobbyists. So will I continue to create videos like this? Yes, not a whole lot, because I'll try to maybe do one or two every month when something strikes my fancy or I feel like we need to talk about something. But yeah, we are making a little bit more money on YouTube. This is not our main source of revenue here at Spiky Bits. It's a great place to create content and get people engaged and get people back to the site and connecting with us on the other social media platforms out there. But at the end of the day, we can give a reach and a share of voice to other companies out there, which we've showed you all throughout the existence of this platform for the past 12 some years. All these other great companies out there. That's really important to me. That focus will not change. So over on the actual Dominion listing on GW's site, you can see here that they basically told us how many Dominions they produced for sale on, through their retail channels, i.e. the web store and potentially their own Warhammer branded store. So 33,005 or 33,050 of these things right there, because that's how many of the command token sets they purchased that you get one for free when you buy Dominion. So that's kind of a tell. Now, it was rumored that that Indominus was only produced in 30,000 back in last summer. So just the fact, now don't get me wrong, they did the whole thing where they went ahead and did the whole made to order thing, but this is an interesting number because this seems to indicate that they thought they could sell more of the new edition of Sigmar than they did the new edition of Warhammer 40k. Now, a lot of stores checked in with me over the past couple of days saying, hey Rob, something weird happened. I just got my shipping notification from Games Workshop for the rest of my Dominions that were supposedly delayed or stuck in shipping or what have you. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Weren't those supposed to be spread out like a couple weeks and then in August? And they're like, yeah. And I haven't really sold a lot of my Dominion that I just got and that they allocated me because people just aren't ordering it, which I think is somewhat true. I think a lot of veterans were looking to get the book and the commander's the general's handbook. And I don't while the new sculpts are dope, both the Stormcast and the Cruel Boys, I'm just not sure that producing it in the numbers that definitely exceeded the 40k launch last year was a good idea on Games Workshop's part. So enter in the fear of missing out, the perceived scarcity, and the way they marketed it in the past few weeks to try to get folks to purchase it. Yes, it is still available. It is still up for pre-order. We know that. We didn't. They just finally gave the allocations back to stores 2 weeks later after it went live for sale on their website and also release launch weekend, which in theory is the last bump of interest in this product. So I get it. We can draw a lot of conclusions there. It's really up to you guys. What you think about all that. It's obviously, there's a lot of coincidence there, for sure. But let's keep digging into the numbers. So here is Games Workshop sales by region in 2020. Now, remember, 2020 does not include Indominus. That ran from June 1st of 2019 to the end of May in 2020. So almost kind of pre-lockdown-ish right here. And as you can see, the North American market is, a big chunk of their sales, which is, definitely to be expected. And then you've got UK basically almost tied with continental Europe, and then everyone else kind of picks up the slack right here. So you could definitely say that, North America / Canada, US is roughly 50% of Games Workshop sales in general. Along the same lines is their sales breakdown by channel. So online trade sales or web stores, 19% trade sales. That's basically selling to their partner stores and big box retailers. 52%, and then retail. That is their own actual Warhammer branded stores that are basically everywhere. Here in the States, I think there's roughly 200-300 of them, give or take, and then the rest of them are all spread out across the country. Now, something important to note here is that this again does not reflect lockdown sales, starting roughly summer of 2020, and it also does not reflect Indominus. So we don't know how much of this changed when they did what they did with Indominus, and we definitely don't know anything about Dominion here. So we're working with numbers that are a little bit old, but it gives us an idea based on the sales by region and also by channel where basically they make their money. Now, real quick, it's important to note that Games Workshop doesn't answer to anybody but their shareholders and to some extent their employees, which they have promised certain bonuses based on certain goals getting hit, both with performance and sales. So that's it. They don't owe us as consumers anything. It's just a little bit that the hobby seems very niche, and it's very, everybody's so connected on all the different platforms and communities and forums that when something like this happens, obviously people talk about it, whether it's good or bad release. So the community is so small that we're also very vocal about things that I think, that's where some of these feel badsies come from. But that being said, just keep in mind that GW doesn't owe us anything. They literally owe us nothing. It's only for shareholders or employees out there. So that's who they answer to. So let's take a look at some of the hard data. This is a list of all the port imports since the past year or so. So from June 2020 to June of 2021. So both Indominus and also Dominion are in here. And just to give you an idea of how accurate the data is, for the most part, you can drill down and find out a lot of things about this. This is roughly 113,000 pound shipment coming from China. And just to give you an idea of what exactly came in this, right here you can see that it used to be a little bit easier to see all the content inside of here, but this was Scarlet Rulebook, which was the code name for 9th edition 40K right here. And let's see, this particular number right here looks to be, it is the Warhammer 40,000 core rulebook from 9th edition 40K. Yep, that's right. So they codenamed it to try to hide it. And obviously, if you didn't have the SKU number or the barcode part number, whatever it is, this isn't the barcode, this is actually the SKU number, then you wouldn't be able to tell what the heck it was at the time. So there's a little bit of deciphering things at the time, but you can always go back and kind of figure out a little bit about what the things were that came through the port in hindsight. So that being said, now that we know roughly how accurate this information is, let's scroll all the way up. And there is a ton of entries in here. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. So I wanted to go up to the top here because I can basically see where there was a whole bunch of almost nearly identical shipments of very large amounts here. So roughly 15,000 pounds each. There was, 8 shipments here, 3 to 10, roughly 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 identical shipments of roughly 15,000 pounds each, which, you know, if you start thinking about it, it's like, around the beginning of June, what the heck would Games Workshop bring in to their warehouses here in North America to, you know, obviously they don't want stuff sitting around in their warehouses very long at all. They want to get it in and they want to get it out. So what the heck could that be? Oh, probably Dominion. But now, does any of this say Dominion? No, because actually what Games Workshop does is they shrink wrap it. So you can't see exactly what is in any of, and seal it. So it's very interesting how they protect if it isn't coming in from China. Now, China is kind of a crapshoot on what you'll see as far as marks and things like that, and you have to do a little bit of research in hindsight. Now, also something to note about all of these port imports is we broke it down by coming from GW Manufacturing, and GW Manufacturing has changed since Brexit. Now, since Brexit, Games Workshop doesn't ship everything over to the States that they produce from the UK. There's been stuff coming in from all sorts of different ports in Europe, but also UK too. So it's really, they've obviously had to change how they produce and also ship stuff over here in the States. I don't know much about that. I can only see the data that it definitely shifted since Brexit. I do want to mention, you'll notice there's a bunch of other similar imports or similar sized shipments that all came in around the same date, which in theory could be the rest of the stuff for Dominion. It doesn't necessarily mean the copies of Dominion, but it could be the rest of the stuff for the release. Now, let's take a look at the imports themselves from GW Manufacturing, which could have been strictly UK, but since Brexit also now includes a lot of stuff coming out of Europe, EU here to the States that we previously did not see. And it's also divided by all the various manufacturers in China. So let's jump back to the numbers real quick, talking about all of these identical entries right here that we just showed you, and some clues is what they could be. So now that we have Dominion in our hot little hands, we were able to figure out that this 8 shipments of 21 pallets and 588 cartons, according to the port manifest I just showed you, that would equal out roughly, assuming each case was Dominion, which come 3 to a case. If they brought in 588 cartons of it, you'd be looking at roughly 14,112 just off those all 8 identical shipments. The complete import into the US. Now, I showed you where basically the US is roughly 50% of, their sales. We know that they produced at least 33,000 of these Dominions for their web store. So it would stand to reason that they probably produced 40 or 50,000 total for both trade sales, which we just showed you the pie chart breaking all that down. So it doesn't seem unlikely that this number is wrong. It's probably a bit higher because there was also additional shipments that may contain, half cases and things like that, and also the rest of the Dominion releases. So that being said, it seems like an appropriate amount of Dominions and released products were received into the United States warehouse for Games Workshop roughly around the start of June of this year. Now let's go a bit deeper. So we were actually able to collate all this data for the past year to show the gross weight in both pounds and kilograms of all of the imports into the United States from both Games Workshop manufacturing, which is right here. And remember, a lot of this is split now in 2021 because of Brexit, coming from both the UK and Europe, but it's GW corporate in general, and those pallets, it's impossible to tell exactly what is on them. So here you can see the summation for everything that was brought in up to December and everything that was brought in up to roughly the first week-ish or couple of days of June of this year. Now, why is that important? Well, remember what happened in December of 2020? Everything got super allocated by Games Workshop because they weren't able to allegedly make as much stuff and bring as much stuff into, the States. And that's when things got really weird because hobbyists weren't able to get the stuff they wanted. Scalpers were loving it because they could buy this stuff in the limited quantity things and just make a stupid killing. Restocks were going for a lot. Also, we have the China imports as well. And you can see here at the start of 2020, which remember, I didn't explain this, so just real quick. GW's fiscal year actually goes from June to, the end of May to June of the next year. So it's split right down the middle. It's not an actual year. It's called a fiscal year, where you basically figure out whatever 1 year period you want, and that is your fiscal year. So here's all the imports from China, and then we're going to get into it here in a second. But you can already tell that judging by last year, the Chinese imports are way up right here, while the stuff coming out of Europe and UK are potentially down, just looking at the numbers real quick. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of everything Games Workshop has done here in the States versus what they have told consumers, about what was going on. So the changes in imports from June of last year to June of this year from GW themselves, created in both Nottingham and some other parts of Europe now because of Brexit, they've actually been down 19%. So their imports and their manufacturing of core products, restocks, not necessarily new releases, but just in general, have been down 19%, which is a huge percentage for any company. Don't get me wrong. Their imports, however, from China are up 11%. And we know that a lot of times from China, they import bulkier items, terrain, components for other things like components for Dominion, books 100%. Now, while the General's Handbook was produced in China or manufactured in China, the chapter approved book for Warhammer 40K was actually produced here in the States, at least for stateside customers in North America. So where does that leave us? Let's take a look at the revenue in millions for the first half or the second half of 2020. That's from June 2020 to December of 2020. In millions of pounds, 186 million pounds in revenue. Their estimated revenue for 2021, which would be from January 2021 to the end of May, June 2021, roughly, which they announced the estimate, their final numbers will be up at the end of July, was approximately 140 million pounds. A percent change between those two periods of negative 25%. So their revenue went down, which I would like to add that their revenue of the same period here was 148 million pounds. So just kind of keep that in mind, that they have gone that much up in revenue in the past 2 years since, Indomitus came up, that this number looks low, but it's actually not that low compared to their previous whole fiscal year. So you could say that in order to mitigate the problem with their actual manufacturing and the fact that they allocated so heavily to game stores, while stuff was initially available in larger numbers on their website for a while, until the scalpers came along and everybody kind of bought it up. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these things sold out almost instantaneously off their website, but people still kind of got it, and also got it in their GW branded stores to mitigate this drop in production, to just a 25% drop in revenue between these two periods. You could make the argument that perhaps there was a shift in how much sales, and we'll know this here relatively soon when they put out their final report. For example, it's quite possible that this retail number here and this trade sales number shrunk, and the online sales increased, and also the retail sales increased, and sales to stores, i.e. independent retailers, your local game stores, actually shrunk, because getting one and twosies of things for 6 months, 5 months really didn't do anybody any good except for scalpers, and we've made that argument a lot. So this here probably changed like this, and this probably changed more, rotated the other way. But these numbers definitely changed based on that data. So again, some quick conclusions. At the end of the day, we can draw a lot of assumptions. We don't have anything solid and concrete, unfortunately. So that's why it's still very important to vote with your hobby dollars. Try to help out those local stores. Try to keep fighting for a fair marketplace for every manufacturer, every 3D artist out there to have a share of voice and to have that share of sales, because we all rise with the tide. And no matter what happens in this wonderful hobby, in this wonderful industry, it continues to get larger each and every year. But we need those game stores to still exist, and it has been a very rough year for them out there. I think we can all agree. So, take what I had to say with a little bit of heart, a little bit of open mind, apply, a little bit of logic, and, make your own assumptions from it. But please, at the end of the day, talk about it in your communities, talk about it with your gaming groups, talk about it with your local game store, and see what they have to say about their own personal experiences. Is there Dominus shipments gone out that were supposedly allocated? How are their sales? Because we're going to keep seeing this happen, this, perceived scarcity, this fear of missing out, or FOMO, from Games Workshop, because that is what has worked in the past, but that is not what seems to be working in 2021. And if we continue to vote with our hobby dollars, we will start getting more value proposition from Games Workshop's products and offerings going forward than we have in the past, which is, really great for us as hobbyists. It is way easier as a business to convert existing customers to basically spend more money and then create new customers. And I think Games Workshop, this is just an assumption on my part, has really kind of scorned existing hobbyists, which are easiest to convert on new things with the way they've gone about their sales tactics and things. And keep in mind, it's only a predatory sales tactic if they lie to us. And can we prove that anything lied to us? No, they haven't broken any law. They haven't done anything illegal. They only answer to their shareholders and their employees. So let's continue to try to, make some changes out there to maybe how we buy and, what we actually pick up going forward. There's, check out the channel. There's a lot of great alternatives out there. As a matter of fact, I want to show you something real quick, and then that's it. I noticed over the past couple of weeks that there was a lot of traffic going to this old post from 2018, which outlined the top 80 best alternatives to Games Workshop miniatures. So I think a lot of folks out there are looking to vote differently with their hobby dollars. We actually updated this article in 2021, and I put a link to this one over here on this one, because a lot of companies have kind of come and gone since 2018. So we kind of thinned it out and got a really solid top 50, because there's a ton of great hobby manufacturers and 3D artists out there that really kind of deserve at least a look from you. I think there's some really great alternatives out there. So that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching our latest video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos. And please comment on the videos what you think, who you've talked to, check out what's going on with your local stores, your gaming groups, and just hit us with your thoughts on basically all of this, because it was a lot of information. I tried to hit you with it as fast and as concise as I could. Hopefully we kept this to about 10 minutes. We're on the video, it will kill know me. And and that's it. And hopefully we will have another great video on the top 3 things GW is doing right in 2021, because I think that's very important to talk about, because we've been a little critical on them lately, and they are doing great things out there, and this hobby wouldn't exist without them. Oh, and don't forget, you can also support us over on Patreon for as little as $6 a month for an ad-free experience, and as little as $35 for a miniature crate back in the mail from us. We like to play Hobby Santa. It's a really great time. That's it. Thank you very much for watching.